All right, this is video number 4. So we're transitioning to nitrogen balance into protein quality. So when you talk about the quality of a protein, I think it is very American to have a belief in your head that it has to be animal based, and it doesn't have to be animal based. Plants can provide a good source of protein. Now, is it true that animal tissue generally has more protein per gram or gram of protein per serving of animal tissue? Yeah, that's true. That's pretty much true. So the two questions you ask about anything that you're eating: does it contain the 9 essential amino acids? Most animal products do have more than plant products. Now, just because there's all 9 amino acids in chicken or beef or steak or salmon, that doesn't mean there's a lot of each one. If you want to build many Lego toys, you need a lot of the same kind of Lego, right? Individual Legos. That's number one. Number two is digestibility. Is the food you're eating able to be broken down and can provide protein to the body? Again, animal generally is more digestible than plant. I believe animal is about 90 to 99% digestible. The 99 is milk and egg. And plant is about 70 to 90% digestible. Fiber gets in the way, slows everything down. We want to slow everything down, so if undigested food is sitting in the GI tract, maybe it keeps us from eating all the time. Now, if there's all 9, here's one. So here's a little slide I made long ago. Each of these bar graphs is an amino acid. And this line here on the graph says, is there enough of each amino acid? So if it's above the line, there's plenty of amino acid in the food with which to build your body. There are basically 2 foods that we consider perfect: egg and milk. Not steak, not chicken, not tofu. Egg and milk. They have all 9 amino acids. They're above the line. There's plenty of them. And those 2 foods are pretty much completely digestible. Those are considered perfect proteins. Now, or you could call it a complete protein. Most foods don't look like that. They look like this. Either amino acid is really low or it's just flat out missing. That's called incomplete. Even animal tissues are incomplete, except egg and milk. Plants often have many amino acids that are low. And this would be like an even more incomplete protein. And then the opposite of all of this is your bodybuilding products, where there's just a ton of amino acids, way more than you possibly could use to build any reasonable amount of muscle. Realize from like 10 slides ago, or maybe 20 slides ago, excess amino acids that you can't use to build with can be burned for fuel or converted to body fat. Eating protein for the sake of protein is basically eating more calories. Keep that in mind. How do plant folks do it though? If in fact they're less digestible and they have like less of all the amino acids, how do vegans not fall apart? Well, part of it is that vegans don't live off rice and they don't live off beans. Beans are typically low in some amino acids. Rice are low in other amino acids. This could be wheat. This could be barley. This could be potato. Beans could be lentils. This could be seeds. This could be nuts. This could be tofu. But when you throw them together on a plate, that's called complementary. And yes, you can't see it very well right here, but there are vegetarian bodybuilders. Complementary protein sources are individual ones that are not so good, and combined you get the complete package. The Native Americans in the northeast of the United States, before there were Westerners there, or people from Europe I should say, used to combine their corn, their beans, and their squash into a system called the Three Sisters. And the beans and the corn kind of are the complementary protein. And when you grow the squash around the corn and the beans, the squash, the big giant leaves, excuse me, helps to cover up the soil so you don't get weeds. And by the way, squash can probably a great source of vitamin C as well. So that's how we do it. Even chicken and beef eaters are doing this. Your burrito has a wheat wrapper. That's kind of a grain. The chicken's not perfect. You're throwing them together, chicken burrito. You throw some beans in there, it's complementary. The entire planet does it this way. Italians in the north eat beans with rice or pasta. Pakistan, India, the Caucasus, Afghanistan, The entire Middle East, rice, lentil, bean, chickpea. In India, they make a dal, kind of like a porridge out of chickpeas. Asia, noodle, rice, or bean. Tofu is soybean. And in the Caribbean, it's rice every island, pick the bean. It's bean island by island. Some islands have a different bean. That's how the world does it, complementary. Unless you tell me you're living off egg and milk, you're eating a complementary protein diet. Now, is there any issues with being a vegetarian? So I just kind of convinced you that you can get enough protein. So, yeah, probably not an issue. Now, vegetarians generally have lower rates of cancer, some cancers, lower rates of heart disease. They generally have less likely to have high blood pressure or get a stroke. If they have diabetes or they are overweight, they're more likely to have better management. And if they're overweight, they're not gaining weight. And you can't lose weight if you're gaining weight. So there's a lot of advantages to being a vegetarian or a vegan. There are some concerns. Protein should not be an issue. B12 is an issue. We'll talk about this in the minerals, in the vitamins chapter. It is a animal-based vitamin, B12, that is now being put into a ton of vegetarian products. Soy milk, hemp milk, rice milk, soy dog, soy cheese. B12 is being fortified into tons of food. So the likelihood that you're not getting enough, if you're eating a varied vegan diet, shouldn't be a factor. You could always take a supplement. Zinc and calcium, we'll talk more about those when we get to them. We used to think that plant diets didn't provide a lot of zinc and calcium. They, people before me, they thought wrong. You should be wary of these four: protein, B12, zinc, and calcium. But a varied, complex vegan or vegetarian diet, it shouldn't be a problem. Carl Lewis, by the way, 4 gold medals, like zillion track and field medals as an NCAA athlete. Great American, vegetarian. So it can absolutely be done. You can't live off crackers and chips. And that's the end of this video.